Well, I've got to say, I'm always interested in learning more about stuff we can make money, Paul. And art, as you made a point earlier in the program, is a place where you can do it. But like most things, you need some expertise. And to get that, we're going to talk to Jenny Gibson. And Jenny Gibson comes from Gibson's Auctions. Jenny, welcome to the program.
Nice to be here, Peter.
All right, so Jenny, tell us about what people need to know when they think they want to invest in art.
Well, there's quite a range of things that I think you need to consider, Peter. One of the first things is the reason, well, obviously you need to know the reason you're buying it. So there's lots of reasons you buy art, and you buy decorative art. You buy it because you love it. You buy it because you're a collector. You buy it for investment. You buy it because you want to keep it in the house, put it in the house, see it every day and live with it. Mm.
Yeah, I've got to say, a very good friend of mine who I know you would know, and he's passed away, he had so much beautiful art. And he had it in his super fund, but he had it on his walls. And this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And he assured me that he had bubble wrap at the door in case the taxman ever came, and he would wrap. He thought this was a defence policy that he could wrap it up, and he would pass the stringent test on art and super funds. Poor old Richard is no longer with us.
Right, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to keep it off site. So I suppose that's one of the difficulties with the investment side of it is that the ATO laws do state that you must keep it off site and not necessarily in the family home. But then, how do you enjoy it?
That's right.
Yes, he was on the right track there, I think.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
So, Jenny, let's just talk about, can you be a collector and enjoy it at the same time? Do you think those things, it's right to mix the two things together?
Well, I think it's essential. To be honest, I think one of the things about most collectors that I've ever met and come across, and of course I've come across many in my 25 years as an auctioneer and a valuer, is that invariably the two are interlinked. Right. You 90% of the time you can't have one without the other. So.
Yeah, and I think Paul's very strange question ignores the fact that he loves cars, and I can imagine he could easily invest in a very expensive old car. He would collect it and he would watch it and enjoy it, wouldn't you? Admit it.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it investing, Peter, but I might actually spend some money.
Yeah, you can see Paul used to be a banker, so he has a really tough definition on investing. But it brings up a really good point, Jenny. Some people do go and buy artwork either from dealerships or from auctions, and they think it's going to be a good investment. Does it take a long time for a normal retail buyer to see their artwork, on average, become a good investment?
Look, obviously there is a period of time that's recommended. If you're buying fairly high-end art from the upper range, then certainly the generally expected time frame that you're going to hang on to it is at least 5 years. I think that's the case with most investments, Peter. If you buy shares, they say minimum 2 to 3 years, obviously, unless there's a run on the market. Real estate, it's similar, and certainly with art, I would say that your minimum time frame, yes, is 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. Is there also cycles like? Personally, as an investor, I love to buy when everyone's selling. And does the same kind of thing happen in art, that there are periods where, say, for example, stockbrokers' bonuses are massive and therefore art prices reflect that kind of thing?
That does happen. It probably doesn't necessarily reflect so much in the market, although obviously prices go up as the stock market goes up, as economic circumstances improve. Because we are I think Paul will agree, a discretionary income buy. So to a certain extent, the other two investing categories come first, which of course is real estate, stocks and bonds, and then art will follow on in terms of a purchase for most collectors and investors. So that's to be considered as well, I guess, in the mix.
And Jenny, what about the buying process, the advantages and disadvantages of buying from a collector or buying from a gallery, or, for example, buying it at auction? What do you advise and counsel people there?
Sure. So obviously auction is a tried and true and tested way to purchase. One of the good things about buying from a reputable auction is that the provenance information is correct. the price estimate, maybe not necessarily the price that the piece hammers down at or ends up at, is usually slightly lower than you're going to have to pay retail. So, of course, that's an alluring aspect of the buy at auction. So, obviously, a price point is a fairly important factor when buyers are in the market and they're looking to buy. Obviously, if you're buying from a retailer, it's an immediate purchase. You don't have to wait for the auction. You don't have to compete with anyone. You can simply buy from the retailer. So there's quite a few differences between a retail purchase from a gallery and buying at auction.
Okay, so because I always like to think I'm getting a great deal, Jenny, I'm strange like that.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
That's right. So if I go to an art auction, I would presume, and correct me if I'm wrong, and that's why I'm asking the question, I would presume that I'm competing against other enthusiasts like myself, as well as people who might own art galleries and are really interested in the piece. And there's a consequence, I would have thought, at an auction, I might get it at a seriously better price than if the person who actually wins the auction and owns a gallery then puts it up in his or her gallery with a markup. Is this right thinking, or is it kind of like the guesswork of an amateur like me?
Well, no, to a certain extent you're correct, and absolutely correct too. And I've said this quite often. So there's not such a trend these days for people to actually attend auctions. There's so many different ways you can bid at an auction. You can bid live in the room, you can bid online, you can bid by phone, you can bid by absentee bid. But a lot of clients will sometimes ask me, and I don't give out any details, obviously, but if they're in the room and they see a known dealer bidding, and let's say the known dealer is the underbidder, and the client wins the lot, if you like, or the artwork, then yes, as a general rule, you could pretty much guarantee that the dealer is certainly going to put a markup for the sale on that particular artwork, to obviously make a profit and resell it. So, no, that's absolutely correct.
And what typically are the sort of markups that a dealer might have, and what would a seller pay at an auction in terms of a transaction fee?
Sure. So for a seller selling at auction, the standard, I think the industry standard is usually somewhere between 15 and 20%, and that varies across auction rooms. A purchaser,
that's paid by the seller. Yep.
That's paid by the seller. They pay what they call a vendor commission.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's the deduction by the auction house for the process of handling, photographing, promoting, marketing, printing in both hard copy and soft copy catalogues, and putting it out to a huge range of buyers in the market in order to expose it to the maximum number of prospective purchasers and get the best price.
And when it's sold privately or sold through a gallery, what are the obviously the markups change, I guess, depending on the piece of art, but is there sort of something standard that you sort of factor into that equation?
Well, a dealer, it varies, of course, but dealers, I think dealers, most likely will put anywhere between, I'd say, 20% and up to another 50% on top of the purchase price, and that's obviously to obviously make their profit, turn the lights on, keep the gallery running, and those sorts of things. But then it's an immediate purchase. So what you get when you go to a gallery is immediate gratification.
Yeah,
you can literally walk in, see the artwork, and buy it.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like the sort of thing a man would like to do. Go in, buy, walk out.
It's a very quick process.
Yeah, we shop like sharks, don't we? One final thing. In the spring series, you had some interesting work from China and Japan. Has that already gone ahead, or is it still up for... is the auction lying ahead for this one?
No. Well, the auction was earlier. It was actually last week, so at the beginning of last week. We have now gone for that sale has now pushed through, and I'm very happy to say that it was successful. So.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting, particularly Japanese Meiji period or Meiji. I always said Meiji.
Yeah, it's Meiji period.
Yeah, Meiji. Yeah. Certainly we'd love to see that. Finally, Jenny, where can people find out more about Gibson's auctions?
Well, we're certainly online. All they have to do is Google us as Gibson's Auctions, and that's probably the best way. They can come in and see us at 885 to 889 High Street.
In?
and they can contact us via email.
There are about 5 million high streets in the world, Jenny. Which high street we're looking for?
High Street, Armadale.
Yeah, I thought so.
I always forget to say that, assume that.
Well, we have a place in Hawkesbury, and I know people in Armadale. They don't think anything else exists outside Armadale.
We should say Armadale in Melbourne, shouldn't we?
We should just right. Yeah, not Armadale,
that's
Northern
right.
New South Wales.
Yes, Armadale in Melbourne. Yeah, exactly.
Right. All right, Jenny, thanks for coming on the program.
That's a pleasure. Thanks.